Hey everyone, hope you're well. This is CoinsKid. Just going to XRP. Once again, thank you for support. Okay, we're the CoinsKid crew. So the data is suggesting that this bull market's not over, and this is something I've been looking at with yourselves. I don't necessarily think XRP's entered a bear market. I actually think it's been in some kind of expanded flat correction since December, and it may have actually bottomed right now in April. But what we're looking for is clues in the structure and the chart, and we may have seen that for XRP. So stay tuned because I'll show you exactly what that is. But for anyone that's been tuning into the channel, they would already know what XRP did the other day, which increased the probability that it has bottomed for anyone paying attention. So we'll look at the charts, lay down some predictions for XRP, but I just want to go through the data with you that suggests that this bull market is not over and what we need to see in this bull market to exit this market. Like I said to you many times in many videos, I'm not selling XRP because I think there's a final fifth wave missing, and that's exactly what I'm anticipating right now for XRP, this big move to the upside where it enters price discovery and then it gets to the upper targets, which I'm going to show you in today's video. So one of the key things is a CKR. This is an index that I create for the CoinsKid crew. Right now you can clearly see it sitting in the golden zone. It did dip back here way back in, I think it was April, got really oversold. The entire market did, and we've seen a positive reaction from that. So remember, the market moves in waves. It's not just going to go vertical, but what we're looking at, retail needs to be overexposed. We've got pushing up into the red sell zone, EMA red sell zone, DXY it's maxing out already, so the DXY is in a perfect position for a blow off top. Pi cycle, that's pushing up a little bit more as well. AI, now this is really important, and the index that I create for the CoinsKid crew, this is basically altcoins. Okay, so what we're looking at, if this starts to get really overextended into the red sell zone, we are seeing 5 ways up for XRP and Bitcoin, so on and so forth, then I think we'll have a big push in the altcoins, which is typically what we get, and then that's it, we're cooked in this market, and we a maximum opportunity to exit this market. So that's what I'm looking at over the next few months, and one of the key clues I'm looking at to to that particular scenario is the crystal ball indicator create for yourselves that shows liquidity coming in and out the market, which it left the market in December and it's came back in, and right now we break out, make all-time highs, and it's in price discovery within itself. So I'll look at that with you in a moment. But CKR, if we can start to really overextended, which is what we saw here in April of 2021 right there, and we saw here in December of 2017, we saw there in 2013 as well. If we can start to see this vertical here in the CKR and it starts to go dark red, this is your maximum basically opportunity to exit this market, as well as other data points that I'm looking at. So I'll go through them with you. So I'll just go through a couple of indicators quickly on CoinsKid.com that show us a bullish setup going forward, and equally they will be confidence in my analysis of, okay, we need to get out of this market at that particular point. So at the moment there's no bias. We've got the crystal ball trending up, which is liquidity coming in and out of the market based on M2 money supply. We've got liquidity, and again there's a lag on this particular indicator. Basically what we've got is money leaving in December, re-entering in the summer, breaking out, taking out the range, and basically the same for Bitcoin. Bitcoin, I think, experienced an expanded flat correction in December. I've been relaying this to you in the Bitcoin videos and the XRP videos. Now I think both Bitcoin and XRP have been in some kind of expanded flat, irregular correction where we're the A wave down, B wave high, C wave drop, and we nailed the 5 waves in the C wave for Bitcoin. Okay, and hopefully we've nailed that buyback for XRP on $1.64. But it's all about the structure. So far there's no bias. Bitcoin's come up in 5 and XRP's come up in some kind of 1, 2, 1, 2, 3 at the moment. So I'll go through that with you. And XRP could be incredibly bullish at this point, where possibly goes to that minimal $4 target and beyond. So we'll look at that further down the line. But for me so far, what we're looking at is the crystal ball indicator left the market in December, came back in summer. Look at that, and it's breaking out and taking out the range. And right now we've got Bitcoin and XRP attacking the high range, looking to break it out, but the crystal ball's already took it out. Okay, so if it's anything to go by, basically this breakout here, Bitcoin's coming up, this breakout here, Bitcoin's coming up, this breakout here, Bitcoin's coming up, so on and so forth. So we're looking at this in time. Once we start to see this orange line roll over once more, it will give us a clue, because obviously it's in front, it's lagging, so it will give us a clue as to when, okay, we should exit this market. And again, there's no guarantees, and it could be completely wrong, but it could equally be another indicator we need to pay attention to. For example, say this begins to roll over at the moment, you can clearly see, if you look at the bottom, it's still projecting that it's trending up in July. But if it's to start to at some point, August, October, whatever, start to roll and have a sharp correction, that would be the time at which I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to exit this market, because the crystal ball is telling me that. This is why I've called it the crystal ball. It's basically a potential clue, and again, it's not absolute, please remember that, but it is potentially a clue to the future of risk, basically, because of liquidity coming in and out of the market. So we've got it leaving in December, re-entering the summer, and right now we've got Bitcoin, which is pushing up against all odds and expectations, isn't it? It's doing really, really well, as is XRP. So the crystal ball on CoinsKid.com, based on M2 global money supply, and equally you can get into your trading view charts as well as an indicator that I create for the CoinsKid Crew Elite right there. The crystal ball, it's showing liquidity is still re-entering this market, and we've not necessarily seen any big sharp corrections, although if we take a look, there is a correction that kicks in roughly next week, I think it is. We start to see this little pullback, so that could be an indication, okay, we're seeing some kind of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 setup for Bitcoin, and right now we're going for some kind of wave 2 pullback, which is represented in the liquidity, coming in and out the market as well. For example, just there, you got a pullback just there and was pulling back in liquidity there. So the crystal ball, it can work on the micro, but you want to zoom in on your trader view charts to see that correlation playing out. There's equally a couple more indicators on the CoinsKid website that I've created for yourselves that could give us a clue to the future of this market. Let me show you right now, okay? So Liquidity Dance is a really important indicator for the CoinsKid Crew. Again, you can get it on CoinsKid.com. You can equally get this into your trading view charts. Just click this link here, okay? So the white line is basically really simple. It's liquidity, risk appetite being put in and out banks on a daily basis. So you can clearly see from the bottom here, it started to trend upwards, and what's happening to the Bitcoin price action, which is obviously XRP, it's trending down. So currently we don't see this, and this is why I've relayed to you in recent times why I actually think we're still bullish here. And I think what we've gone through is basically since that top there, we've got the big spike up in liquidity where liquidity is being withdrawn, and we've got you sort of big correction that we've gone through. But what we've got is a consistent downtrend in this white line. We're still making lower lows and lower highs here. So we've got this high pivot, lower high pivot, we've got this low, and we've got another lower low here. So we've got to see this drop. Okay, if we see this drop, then it's basically where we are here. You've gone sideways in the correction, sideways in the correction. This continues to make lower lows and lower highs. If we see this from Liquidity Dance, this will indicate to me, okay, we're looking at explosive move and a continuation of the bull market. The inverse of that is basically where we start to see the white line bottoming out, making higher highs and higher lows. You can clearly see what's happening to Bitcoin, and obviously XRP at that time frame is just beginning to come down the stairs in a big macro correction. So this is equally one of the confluencing factors why I don't necessarily think this top here, which is what a lot of people are looking at, is some kind of bull market top. I think it's just a sort of intermediate correction before the bull market blow off top. One of the key things I'm looking at is a liquidity dance. If it starts to trend upwards, making higher highs and higher lows, I think you've got a big confluencing factor right there. The liquidity has been withdrawn, risk appetite is being withdrawn, and at that point you're going to start to see a big macro correction like we did. We've seen from 2021 into 2022. So this is why at this point I don't necessarily think this is a big macro correction that's coming into the charts for Bitcoin and XRP. I just think it's a correction before the blow off top, basically, and again there's no bias. So what we've got to see, this white line is doing exactly what it did there. We broke this range here. What was the white line doing? It's making lower lows and lower highs consistently until the day it starts to make higher highs and higher lows. I think there's still uptrend here for Bitcoin and XRP, and it's just me respecting the data. That's a Liquidity Dance. So way back last year I did release this indicator to the CoinsKid Crew, again a custom indicator that I created. It's called the Dumb Money Indicator. It was formerly known as the Retail Top, but what we've got here is a trigger warning. Way back there in November, I said to you, I think we've got a window of opportunity here for XRP where we convert our Bitcoin into XRP, because typically the first time we trigger this in a cycle for Bitcoin, it is always a window of opportunity for altcoins. So that was a beautiful opportunity at the time. I think XRP was around about 55 cents, Bitcoin was about 95k, and it was just an amazing trade that I relayed to you. But I did say to you there's not much of a window here, because basically a month after this we do start to have some kind of big correction in the markets of Bitcoin where it has some kind of pullback, and that's exactly what we've seen. So I think an expanded flat correction began in December, just there as this triggered again. We've gone sideways in a range, we've got the shakeout down there, we've got the 5 waves of death, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in Bitcoin, and right now we're seeing a positive reaction where we've got a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 setup in Bitcoin, and you can clearly see at the top of this potential wave 1 what has happened. We've got the retail, the dumb money coming back into the market, and right now we're going through this correction where we're going sideways for Bitcoin. So anytime you start to see this blue line, which is your dumb money, approach this red line, there's always an increased probability of some kind of correction. If we go back to March, I think it was, of 2024 right there, you can clearly see, look, as the dumb money came down, it hit level 4, and then look, a few weeks later we had that huge correction that lasted from March to, I think it was July and August, wasn't it, for XRP. Now if we move to the left, you can clearly see the dumb money indicator, late 2021, coming up here, everyone thinking you're going to take off into space, base, thinking they're going to get ultra rich at the top, dumb money showing up in droves, and boom, we've got the big macro correction that followed. Okay, lasted roughly a year, wasn't it? And equally, we've got the macro danger zone, the red vertical line that triggered in this particular indicator, which we've currently not seen in this indicator. So if this starts to go again and Bitcoin breaks out to the upside, I think we'll start to see a lot of FOMO, and again we'll be looking at this indicator to, you know, increase probability of that big correction coming in. A lot of people said I was too bearish here, but you know, I was just respecting the data. I said to you, I think, you know, we'll come up and then we'll have some kind of correction. I did envision that, but I hold my hands up. I didn't think it'd be for as long as it has been, to be honest with you. I thought it'd be shorter and then we're going to blow top, but right now it's looking as though we've got this correction out of the way, a potential wave 4, and right now we're experiencing this final 5th wave up for Bitcoin. So let's dive into the XRP chart right now to see what we can see. Okay, but keep an eye on these indicators that I create for yourselves. So just basically data, not emotion. Let's dive into the XRP chart, see what we can see. So looking at XRP in the daily time frame, it was recent times that I said to you, if you take a look at this, when we flip red down there on the CoinsKid ribbon, it pretty much was the bottom, wasn't it? We've got this double bottom down here, but then we broke up, got the green buy dot, look at that in November, and we took off into space. So we've got an increased probability with the data of this indicator that I create for yourselves, that way back when we got the beautiful green buy dot, which represented your first wave from July of last year. Okay, so you came up in a 1, then you went sideways in a wave 2, represented by this red sell dot. Right towards the end of the correction, you flipped red on the ribbon, created a double bottom, and you broke out. You presented a green buy dot, which was indicative of a vertical third wave, and I was relaying this to you. So right now, if I'm just respecting the data of what we've seen before in this ribbon, it could indicate that we've had some kind of 1 into a 2 into a 3 into a 4, as represented by the red sell dot, and right now you are actually in your final 5th wave to the upside here for XRP, and it looks something like that. Okay, and this was the bottom. It was a beautiful buyback on the $1.64 level just there for ourselves. Okay, a beautiful little buy zone. There was a lot of confluence at that particular level. Got the left shoulder, the head, the right shoulder, breakdown, back test, see you later. Got the red sell dot telling us, you know, it was going to get there. But I'll be honest with you, this Trump pump, it did hoodwink me, to be honest with you. When we saw that, I did think, okay, we broke this down to structure, because that was your previous lower high, and then you started to make this, you know, high low structure. You started to look like you were breaking out here. But when we started to come back here, made this lower low into the ribbon, this is where I was projecting to the $1.64 level, and we're looking at a 5 wave move down there, and that's exactly what we got. So 1 2 3 4 5, beautiful counter wave into the 164, bought just there, and right now we're riding this bad boy up. So I'm still holding on, and one of the primary reasons I am holding on is because I don't think that is the 5th wave, and I've relayed this to you. I think it's part of a correction. It's part of an expanded flat correction that began in December here for XRP and equally Bitcoin. So I think we've had a 1 just here. We've had a 1 from July last year into a 2 into a vertical 3 into a 4, and right now it's a final 5th wave coming up. And all of this from July last year is actually the 3rd wave. It's a monster 3rd wave, and like I've taught you before, 3rd waves come up, break out the highs, make all-time highs, so on and so forth. So I still think this is the 3rd wave, which, you know, we're currently in for XRP. So if we come up, break out, I think that's the 3rd wave done. At that point we should see a sharp correction that comes back. How long it lasts for, I don't know, and where the bottom is, I don't know. We'll try and address that in time, but you know, I'm just thinking about this next move to the upside. You know, we're looking at this structure being the low. You're making high-low structure here, which is technically nice, and right now you're getting your ass back above the ribbon for XRP. So this is a nice little bullish statement, and obviously with that we've got the crystal ball indicator, which is showing liquidity coming back into the market and breaking the ranges, you know, which is what it did in the crystal ball indicator, which I relayed to you. So basically there's your high, liquidity left the market, went sideways, and then it came back up and it broke out the range way back here late May. So this is exactly what we might be looking at, some kind of pullback here, possibly a left shoulder, a head, a right shoulder, come back and then break the range, and we're taking off. So that would be absolutely amazing. So at the moment I think we may be going through some kind of correction. If we can hold this high level support and the CoinsKid ribbon, I think XRP could be about to turn around here and break out to the upside, and with that you can clearly see that it's pushing up with the crystal ball. Okay, and at that point we've just got to respect the crystal ball. Whenever it starts to do something like this, which is what it did there, then, you know, obviously it's projected into the future. That was a good clue. Whenever it is, July, August, whatever, you know, that we need to exit XRP basically, because we've got the clue right there. You can clearly see how well these pivot points are. I mean, look at that high just there, went sideways in a range. XRP went sideways in a range, broke out. Eventually XRP, you know, played catch up, broke out. You know, eventually XRP is playing catch up. But if this thing right now starts to do something like that, you can clearly see that's roughly July. Then, you know, you could be cooked in July for XRP. And the really weird thing is as well, and I've not spoken about this yet to anybody, I've just noticed it today looking at the charts, and this is what I do, I always move to the left. The really strange thing is, if we take a look, And again, this is pure coincidental. I don't see anyone else talking about this. But if we look at XRP, it ramped up into July of 2023, okay, off that 5-wave move in January 2023. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, okay. Then at this point, it had this macro correction that lasted a year. From July of 2023, it went sideways in this overlapping zigzag correction and bottomed in July 2024. And then since then, it's come up in a whopping move here, okay. And it's looking to catch up with liquidity. So is it a case that, you know, as long as this correction lasted a year into July, this impulse may last a year from July into July? So it's probably crazy, but if we start to see a liquidity dance roll over at any point, start to do something like that, then okay, we've got a massive increased probability that the top is actually in July here for XRP. And from here, this is up only season for XRP up over the next couple of months. We are looking at some kind of verticals there for XRP in the crypto markets. And at that point, you know, if we start to see liquidity, basically crystal ball leave the market in July, then it's basically July to July correction, July to July impulse. So I'll leave you with that. But the bullish statement at the moment from XRP, and again, this is data not emotion, is the green buy dot. We took out the previous range of a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 move to the downside, and right now we're pushing up. So if over the next few weeks we start to form some kind of right shoulder here, breakout back test, we could be very bullish for the next few months going ahead. So keep an eye on the crystal ball, okay. You can get into your charts, just go to CoinsKid.com, the crystal ball indicator based on M2 money supply right there. But technically XRP may have bottomed, but we're looking for the confirmation of that. In any pullbacks, we have to see it held at roughly $1.61, I think it was, on April the 7th. A beautiful buy zone for the CoinsKid crew and myself at $1.64. So where could XRP go to if it is indeed bullish and it has bottomed? Where could XRP go to in a big vertical to the upside in a final 5th wave here for XRP? So let me drop the fibs on right now. So what we do, we go from the bottom, which was April the 7th, and we go to the top, which was in January, and these will be your minimal targets going forward. So try and get that on as knob on as you can. We're looking at $4.13 at a minimal for XRP. We're looking at the 1414 at 459. We're looking at 1.618 at 535, and we're looking at the 2 fib at 709, and possibly the 2.272 at 8.67. But like I said to you, if we do start to see this move and this break up to the upside for XRP, it would indicate to me that you've not got much room left to the upside of this 3rd wave, where you've got a 1 into a 2 into a 3 into a 4 into a final 5th before a big macro correction comes in, before the continuation to the upside. So we're looking at that. If we start to print 5 waves to the upside into these levels here, you know, then I think we're cooked at that point, and I will begin to, you know, exit my position. But obviously with that, I want to see bearish divergence. I want to see the data points. I want to see the Dunman indicator triggering. You know, I want to see all them indicators that create for the CoinsKid crew. I want to see them triggering the increased probability that this market's cooked. Hope you understand the update. Stay up for 6 months, stay tuned. Take care everyone. Back to an update on XRP. Bye bye.